Maddie from Madalynne Intimates here, and in today's video series we are going to be sewing the new Madalynne Simplicity pattern, the 9779 corset inspired is a key word, dress. It is a long dress as well as a short dress. Now in today's video specifically, I'm going to be going over what pattern pieces you should have cut out, what fabrics to use, what trims to use, and all that jazz. I'll very lightly be going over some pattern alterations, different bust sizes, but if you want to learn more about sewing in general or pattern alterations, I suggest taking one of Madalynne's Intro to Sewing Lingerie courses or scheduling a virtual consultation with yours truly. Now before we get into all the sewing jazz and what you should have cut out and all that, let me first tell you a little bit about Madalynne and what we do here out of our studio. We are a woman-owned, that's me, Philadelphia-based lingerie company offering DIY lingerie kits, bra making workshops, both in person and online, free tutorials just like this one, as well as ready-made lingerie. What is ready-made lingerie? Basically, it's lingerie that we sew for you. So if you have a mother or a sister or a friend who loves your me-made lingerie but you don't want to sew it for her, we have a team of sewists who will sew it for them. Alright, so now let's get into fabrics, what pattern pieces you should have cut out, and what trims and notions you should also get when making the 9779. If getting all the notions just gives you a major headache and you're like, oh, I don't know what to get, where to get it, we do sell findings kits as well as dress kits. So head on over to Madalynne.com. We have all those things so you don't have to get your panties in a knot.
Okay, first let's talk about the bodice pieces and what fabrics you should have cut out for it. You're going to have pattern piece number 1, which is the bodice front for both views A and B. Pattern piece number 2, which is the bodice side front for both A and B. Pattern piece number 3, which is the strap, also for both view A and view B. Pattern piece number 4, which is the bodice back, view A and view B. And pattern piece number 5, which is the bodice side back, view A and view B. So all of the bodice pieces are for view A and view B, and all of the bodice pieces should be cut with the main fabric, which cotton poplin, a taffeta would work well as a lining piece. Your lining is going to depend on what you want. A cotton voile, something really lightweight would work great. Now when it comes to inner lining, it's going to be a personal choice. So the pattern says to cut all the bodice pieces out of inner lining. Depending on what inner lining you're using, you might be using a really stiff inner lining and you only want to use it for pattern piece number 1 and pattern piece number 2, which is the bodice front and side front. The duck canvas that comes in our DIY kits is pretty thick. So if you purchase one of our trimmings kit or our DIY kit, you might want to just use that for the bodice front and the bodice side front. If your inner lining isn't too thick, you could use it for all the bodice pieces. Next up is your skirt front. This also is for view A and view B. If you're sewing the long skirt, then it will have a curved hem. If you're sewing the short skirt, you will see that the pattern piece has a horizontal line that says cut here for view A. You're going to want to cut along that line if you're making the shorter version. The last pattern piece to cut out is pattern piece number 7, skirt back for view A and view B. Just like the skirt front, if you're making the shorter version, there is a horizontal line on the pattern piece that says cut here for view A. You will obviously cut there. If you're making the longer version, you'll cut along the entire pattern perimeter. So before we get into sewing, I think that it's very helpful to look at the finished garment so you know how things come together and get a visual of that. The first thing I wanted to note was that the channeling, and this is just a cropped version, so this is without the skirt attached, but the first thing I wanted to mention was the channeling. Now the pattern was designed for it to be exposed, but it doesn't have to be. Same thing with the ruffle trimming. Let's just say that you don't have a ruffle trim, or the channeling that you have doesn't match your fabric. Doesn't mean that you can't make it. You can put the channeling on the inside. When we get to sewing, I will cover that. Same thing for the ruffle. Let's just say like your fabric really doesn't, you don't like the ruffle, or you just don't think that a ruffle would go with the fabric that you have. You don't have to sew it on here. Not integral to the construction. The hook and eye closures, this one accounts for like 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch here. But if you find a hook and eye closure that's a little bit wider or a little bit narrower, there are the bra hook and eye tapes that you can sew in here, so it would be like literally flush with the hooks. You can use those as well. The one thing that you will want to do is add on to however, let's just say that it's not as wide. Let's just say this is 3/8 of an inch and the hook and eye tape that you have is like 1/8 of an inch wide, then you'll want to add 1/4 of an inch to that front pattern piece. The lining here, I made my lining exactly the same as the self fabric. You can get a different contrast lining. The bodice of the 9779 is drafted for, I would say, like an A to like an E F cup. That's US sizing. We've had people in it that are A cups, B cups, C cups, all the way up to about an EF cup. If you are larger than that, let's just say you're a J cup, M cup, whatever cup, K cup, L cup, whatever cup size you are, you will probably want to do an FBA, full bust adjustment. If you are a sewer or a DIYer, this is a common pattern alteration. Do any Google search and tons of tutorials will come up for it. The other thing that I wanted to note was that for the back, so it is a low back. It is a low back, not very bra friendly. If you are full busted, if you're in that D, E, F range and you would rather it come up and be higher so that you can wear a bra, the pattern alteration is really easy for that. So let's just say this is the pattern piece. So to make this alteration, you will need pattern piece number 4 and pattern piece number 5. You will lay pattern piece 4 over pattern piece number 5 or 5 over 4. You just want to overlap them. Now usually your bra is right underneath your armhole. So I would say about this wide. So you will redraw your pattern piece. I'm going to demonstrate it very quickly. But you will redraw that back scoop so that it comes up. Basically, it's going to be in line with your back armhole. If you wear a bra that's higher up or like a racer back, you'll have to make other adjustments for that. But generally speaking, if you're wearing a regular T-back bra, you will want to raise that back so that it is aligned with the back armhole. Now when you make this alteration, you will also want to get a longer zipper too, because the zipper that is for the S or the 9779 as is going to be shorter, so that you will need a longer zipper to go all the way up. Okay, so now let's go over the trimmings that you will need. So obviously a zipper, an invisible zipper, a hook and eye tape, which all of these come in a findings kit on Madalynne's website, www.madalynne.com. You will need boning to go inside the channeling, which I don't have a channeling here right now, but channeling is this trim right here. And then you will need a ruffle. This is a ruffle that's already pre-made. You can also make a ruffle out of the selvage of your fabric. That would be really fun and a great way to use up the selvage of your fabric. And then one tip that I wanted to give before we get into the next video is that this is a separate 9779 that I cut out. But when you have your main fabric and your interlining fabric, one tip that I have is that I block fused the main fabric
and the interlining, which is duck canvas, together using Otis 505 spray adhesive. This is like my favorite tool, Otis 505 spray adhesive. So when I was cutting, I cut a layer of the main fabric, cut a layer of the lining fabric, cut a layer of the inner lining, and then I sprayed the wrong side of the main fabric and the inner lining together, and then now I just treat it as one going forwards. Makes it really easy, sewing really easy, and so that layers aren't shifting all over the place.